Hi, my name is a.hodgeman, and this is my Implementing a Mobile Learning Initiative at Lorain County Joint Vocational School. This is the presentation I would use to show my board at a board meeting. So before I get started into too much detail, I want to go over what our current practices and plans are in place at the Lorain County JVS. We already have an iPad initiative where teachers have their own iPads and iPad training is available. There are also 2 years worth of students that have iPad minis as well. They are expected to take their iPads to classes and have them fully charged. They have an iPad initiative AUP in place, so students are already aware of what is expected of them and what is acceptable. We also have 8 tech centers available in our school building. We also teach Play-Doh courses for students who might need credit recovery or be enrolled in an online gym class or something like that. Our current tech plan is a work in progress, and it hasn't been submitted yet to the state. It does not include anything about having a cloud-based network because currently we are set up on a localized network only, which means that we can only access things while we were at school. The current tech plan, that's the work in progress, also does not include a specific set of goals or a time frame for implementation. My proposed goal is to prepare students for 21st century work and citizenship by providing them with modern technologies and mobile learning experiences. As you know, the Lorain County JVS is a vocational school. It's considered its own district, but it's only one school. So there's only 4 grade levels within the school, but there are students from all of Lorain County that are in the same class together. Our potential outcomes are increased engagement and participation in classrooms and labs. Like I was saying, it's a vocational school, so there's not only academic settings, but there's also lab setting where students get to learn a particular trade. Another potential outcome would be a development of 21st century skills for use in and out of school, so they could use these skills in the workforce. Another potential outcome is improved test scores and any time, any place teaching and learning, which would allow for the students to learn at the job site or learn in the lab or in the classroom. Basically, whenever there's a teachable moment, they'd be able to take advantage of that. Another potential outcome is increased differentiation and reduced direct instruction. So there's not as much of the teacher standing in front of the classroom presenting information to the students and expecting them to learn it. It's more of an interactive environment where either they can be inquiry-based or a flipped classroom or anything that's not necessarily teacher-directed instruction. While I was going through my proposed plan, I came up with 4 potential problems. One of them being the willingness of educators to implement mobile learning. Especially with it being a vocational school, I expect that some of the lab instructors might not be so keen to implement technology into their lab. Another one is cost and reliability of data connectivity. So I'm not exactly sure how our current bandwidth is going to handle everybody connected to it. So we would obviously need to investigate and make sure that it was never going to crash if we're going to be accessing things off of the cloud and things like that. We want to make sure it's always connected and very reliable. Another potential problem would be mobile device damage or loss. iPads are expensive, so it would obviously be a problem if students were constantly cracking their screen or somehow getting them damaged with water or getting them stolen or leaving them at home and claiming they were stolen. So that's a potential problem that we would want to look into. Another one that took me a while to think of would be community perception of technology as a distraction. I thought that a lot of times at work, people aren't allowed on their phones or things like that, so it might be perceived, especially by workplace, job placement, or where the students would be going for half days. They might think of it as a distraction from what they're supposed to be learning. But if we could possibly get them to incorporate it into the job training, then it would be better used as a tool instead of a distraction. So, I mean, there are ways around all of these possible problems. The implementation of goals I have as have access to online learning via a cloud-based network. That's key to me. Continue iPad initiative to include Apple TV in every classroom. So I've already touched on having this iPad initiative with the first 2 years. I want to broaden that to include Apple TV in every classroom. What the Apple TV in every classroom is going to provide is going to be a way for not only the instructors to pull up whatever's on their iPad onto the smartboard to be shown to the whole class, but also the students can do that too. So it's a way to show work, share with the class, and be more interactive. I would also like to provide access to more iPad carts. We already have one iPad cart. I think it's key to have a second one, especially if we are broadening this iPad initiative throughout the whole school. Then there's always a backup in case a student forgets their iPad or in case there are some out for repair. The final implementation goal is to make sure that technology is used school-wide to enhance learning experience. My main point with that is to make sure that it's not only in the academic setting but also in the lab setting. Our stakeholders are going to be everybody at the school, students, staff, teachers, and lab instructors, and community partners, so job placement, workplaces, and parents as well. For professional readiness, students and staff already have a basic understanding of cloud systems. They use them on a daily basis on their phones. And like I said, half of the student body already has access to this, so they are very well versed in this iPad, and they know that they can save stuff on the cloud. There's, like I said, there's already been a test group, so they know it and they can share their experiences with everybody else. And obviously, who's going to participate? Being the teachers, students, parents, and community partners. Community partners being, like I said, those workplaces that accept internships or job placements. The program design I have as continuing the iPad initiative to allow for one-to-one devices. It's already half of the student body. They get to take their iPad with them throughout their schooling at the JVS, but currently it's only the first 2 years. I'd also like to purchase 30 additional iPads for an iPad cart. Like I've established, that would allow for backups in classes who aren't part of the initiative yet, or if they're out for repair or things like that. I'd like to register the school with Google accounts, allowing access to a cloud-based network, switching from the local network drive that allows for at-school access only. I'd like to install Apple TV into classrooms to allow easy use of iPads along with the current technology of smartboards and projectors. I'd also like to update and expand the school Wi-Fi to allow for more users to make sure it's able to support all of the students on at the same time. There were 3 main policy changes that I came up with. I've already said that there is an iPad initiative acceptable use policy that I think should be integrated into the current acceptable use policy, so it goes along with the new technology, but also include something in there about at-home use, because right now our current AUP only applies to while you're at school. I also think it's important to distribute the AUP at the start of the school year and have it accessible year-round online, just in case you need to reference it or prove a point in class or remind students of what they should and should not be doing on their mobile devices or on the network. It's also good to have there ready to show what the consequences are for not meeting those acceptable use guidelines. I thought it would also be nice to create an outline of parental rights and obligations instead of just including that within the AUP. Parents oftentimes are going to think that the AUP applies only to the students, and they'll sign it after their student signs it. So I think it's important to include a separate document that's going to be specifically for the parents, saying this is what you are agreeing to when you sign the AUP with your student, and this is what is expected of you. So to implement the program, I think we should distribute a letter at the end of this school year, to all students that will be returning at the start of next year, and informing them of the changes that will be taking place. Make sure they know it's not going to be the same. Send out a copy of the new acceptable use policy at least 2 weeks before the start of the school year so they can have it and bring it in for open house when they come in. I also think it's important to send out a copy when they send out the new AUP of the parental rights and obligations to the parents. I think it's important to have mandatory professional development the last 2 months of this school year regarding possible ways for teachers to integrate technology into the classroom. Maybe give them some examples of ways that other teachers have used it, maybe the pilot group that's already using the iPads in the classroom. Allow teachers to access their iPads, their Google Drive, and their internet-based resources over the summer to better prepare for teaching with the new tools the following school year. This was kind of obvious to me. Teachers aren't going to want to plan all summer and then in August be presented with all of this new stuff and be expected to successfully incorporate it. If they have access to it over the summer, they're going to be able to better plan and implement that successfully. So prepping for implementation, the rollout, and the practice. Identify a plan for purchase and installation. I'd say we set up Google accounts for the staff by the end of this school year. So then we could have access to those over the summer and get used to communicating that way. Save lessons onto our Google Drive. We can set up Google accounts for the incoming freshmen and all of our current students by the start of the year. So then they will have access to it all year and it won't be teaching them something new halfway through the year. I say we continue purchasing the iPads for the incoming freshmen through the tech grant and the student technology fees. This will have all of our students with iPads by the end of our 2017 school year. We purchase iPad cart through our tech grant for next school year and install Apple TV over the summer in all classrooms. So then at least we already know that all the teachers have iPads. If we install the Apple TV, even without having all of the students equipped with an iPad at that point, we'll still be able to incorporate this technology into the classroom since it'll be able to be shared via the Apple TV for the whole class to see. And sometimes have the iPad cart available. So for professional development, I think it's important to continue offering the iPad training sessions that are currently offered every Tuesday. But since they're not mandatory, I think we should require staff to attend at least 8 of them. Just so they have a basic understanding of how to use it and so they can't refuse the technology. And provide interactive training on 3 of the teacher work days, including examples of best practices for academic instructors as well as lab instructors. I think it's really important to teach the lab instructors especially ways of using this technology in their classroom for their particular trade. That's going to be a lot of the opposition that I think we receive. It's from the lab instructors that don't necessarily think it applies to them. If we can show them ways that it does apply to them, then we can prevent the opposition from happening. So a plan to communicate, I think it's important obviously to email notifications out, post on our school website, and maybe create a Google site for for changes taking place that just keep people up to date all the time.